Do two wrongs make a right, Scott?
Well, the implication that I don't support the Constitution that you made notwithstanding.
I did not see that.
Accuse me of being an
He's
original.
just famous for being a constitutional originalist.
Here's what I think. If Democrats like Slotkin are going to come out today and whine about selective prosecutions over Tish James, her entire career is built on the selective prosecution of one man.
That's Scott Jennings dismantling CNN's emotional guilt trip over Letitia James, calling out their sudden crisis of conscience now that one of their own is under investigation for the same thing they accused Trump of for years. Welcome to Nerk News, I'm Nerkish, and if you're looking for the best bits of establishment media without sitting through hours of liberal propaganda, you've come to the right place. Because it looks like CNN just discovered what equal justice actually feels like. I mean, call me crazy, but when Democrats like Letitia James spend years weaponizing the law for political gain, they don't get to cry tyranny when it finally comes back to bite them in the rear. Here's Jennings exposing how the left's selective outrage collapses the moment accountability lands on their side.
There was a message from the president, right, on Truth Social to his attorney general 5 days before Jim Comey was indicted that said, Pam, what about Comey, Adam Shifty Schiff, Letitia, question mark, question mark, question mark. And that, of course, is referring to Letitia James. So now 2 of those 3 people have been indicted.
Yeah. So I want to pick up on something that Senator Slotkin said. She said she was warning people about the potential slippery slope of where we go from here. Perfectly fine point to make. What it misses is that we are way down a slippery slope, like way down, right? And I'm perfectly happy to say that what Trump is doing is worse than what Obama did or than what Biden did. And people will say, but but that's how slippery slopes work, right? Things get worse the further down you go on them. And there were cases that were brought against Donald Trump that have no business being brought, 0. And the answer that you get from Trump defenders is, well, they started it first, and so therefore 2 wrongs make a right. And I don't think that's a very sophisticated argument.
There's a process here. Everybody gets their day in court. Obviously, a grand jury saw enough evidence to bring charges. We don't know what they are, but a grand jury looked at this and says, okay, there's something here. She gets to go to court just like Comey, just like anyone else. But to me, it's just not going to fly to boo-hoo over selective prosecutions on this particular person who promised in her campaigns, who went after him on things, as Jonah said, that had no business ever happening, if not but for the man's last name being Trump. So I'm not going to.
How is that not a 2 wrongs make a right argument?
I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying she gets her day in court. I'm saying a grand jury saw enough evidence to bring charges, and I'm saying she gets to go to court and tell her side of the story, and then we'll see what happens. But I'm just arguing the political debating issue here. Democrats are going to say, this is the first time we've ever had somebody go down the road of selective prosecutions on her. Give me a break.
You know, it's almost funny watching them suddenly cry about slippery slopes after years of silence when Trump was being hit with one indictment after another. I mean, when Democrats use lawfare to score headlines and campaign donations, they called it justice. Now that the same standard is being applied to them, suddenly they're calling it a dangerous precedent. Despite what liberals say, this isn't revenge, it's accountability. James built her entire career on targeting Trump personally and calling him illegitimate before even taking office. And like Jennings said, a grand jury indicted her, not President Trump. So equal justice means she gets the same process she weaponized, whether she likes it or not.
You know what's interesting? She named all the things she was mad at Trump over, but then she went after him on mortgage fraud as a civil case, which just always struck me as, I've just got to find something here to satisfy my political base. Also, I don't understand why being a political foe of Donald Trump makes you immune from having to follow the law. If she did it,
her case,
then a jury will, adjudicate.
Her case was not an $18,000 case, was it? It was millions case. If you buy
but Judge, there's not a qualifier.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that was a case. That's a case that any prosecutor. I was a former federal prosecutor, okay? No prosecutor would have brought this case for $18,000. It's just too small. That's the way it works.
But
for
that's not the
millions,
qualifier,
which it wasn't
Judge.
brought, this was not an indictment against Trump. It was a civil case.
She tried to bankrupt him. She tried to ruin his life and try to make it so he couldn't run for
So
president.
what are we going to do?
I mean,
She
come on.
brought forward a case that she thought
I
was
just-
meritorious,
I just-
and it
are we
was
gonna-
found
Thank
that
God.
it
By the
was
way,
meritorious.
thank God she failed in her ultimate goal. Otherwise, we wouldn't be bringing these
But
hostages
Scott,
on Monday.
that
That's all
wasn't. But do you think that this is more of a crime with a victim than the one against Trump?
I can only read back to you her own words. When powerful people cheat to get better loans, it comes at the expense of hardworking people. That's what James said. That's the standard
So
she
you
applied
think
to
that
Trump.
that applies to Trump then?
I think we're.
I mean, she thought it did.
So
But do
Scott,
you?
hold on. Do you think that applies to Trump? If you think it applies to her, fine.
I'm
Do
giving
think
you
it applies to
her
Trump?
justification for
But do
prosecuting
you
him was
think
that.
do you think it
I don't know why
applies?
I don't know why they wouldn't
Listen,
apply.
as they say, two wrongs don't make a right. She's either wrong about Trump or you're wrong about Trump. Which one is it?
No, look, she brought the case. She went through the process in New York. What happened happened. Now she's got a case against her.
So
The
Trump's
process
case
will
was
play out.
legitimate then, in your
Oh,
mind?
I don't think it should have ever been brought. I think it was a travesty.
But you can't have it both ways. One
you
way
really
with Trump
can't.
and one
No.
way
They're
with
two
Trump.
different cases.
They are
And I
not. You
totally
cannot
agree.
have them two different ways.
Go ahead.
Whether you think the merits of the case are strong or weak, or how you think it's going to play out, going out tonight and crying and whining and fussing about selective prosecution when it comes to Letitia James, who ran an entire campaign saying she was going to go after Trump. The cases she brought, it was only because of Trump. I don't think the American people are going to have too much sympathy for it. But she'll get to go to court. She'll get to make her arguments, and we'll see what happens.
You know, this is the perfect example of media hypocrisy collapsing in real time. Philip keeps insisting this is political revenge, while Jennings just quotes Letitia James's own words. I mean, that's legitimately the same standard she used to hammer Trump for inflated valuations that harm no one. The bank said they'd lend to him again. There were no victims, but now when she allegedly lies on a mortgage to save 18 grand, suddenly we're told to show compassion. Because whenever the left is held accountable, they always panic and say two wrongs don't make a right, as a tactic to restrain conservatives with a moral framework the left discarded years ago. They did it with their rhetoric after the near fatal attack on Trump, they did it with the coverage of Charlie Kirk, and now they're doing it again with Letitia James. But let me know what you think. Was Jennings right to call out CNN's sudden moral crisis over Letitia James finally facing her own legal standard? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. That stuff really does help us out. Until then, this has been Nerk News. Thanks for watching. Boy.